any reasonably foreseeable witness. Moments after the judge's decision, Trump launched an attack against his former attorney general, calling Bill Barr, the man you see there, a weak, slow-moving, lethargic, gutless, lazy loser, among other things. Then the very next day, he called the judge herself very biased and Trump-hating for reinstating the gag order. So the question now is, did Trump just violate that gag order? And if so, what happens now? A. Scott Bolden is a former prosecutor in New York, now a white-collar criminal defense attorney, and he joins me now. If this were a Greek tragedy, the chorus in the beginning would tell us that Donald Trump is going to violate every attempt by the judge to rein him in and end up in jail. And then we would just sort of watch it play out. That's really how I feel. Like, this dude's going to do it, isn't he? What do you think, as someone who's practiced in these courts on both sides, what do you think of the latest one?
If he was in therapy, they'd call him the 8-year-old narcissist, and that there's nothing else they could do about it. He's just hopelessly who he is. There's a lot this judge can do about it. I have said repeatedly, publicly and privately, that Donald Trump has never dealt with the criminal justice system before. Civil is different. In the criminal justice system, the federal judge is a lifetime appointee. He is no match, no matter how much money he may or may not have, for a sitting federal judge. And it's incremental. He's violated the direct order. She let them brief the issue, and now she's put the order back in place. And within minutes, within hours, he violated it. That is, he attacked one potential witness in Barr, who was his attorney general, who is most likely going to be called as a witness. And then he attacked the judge, who is, quote, court personnel. Now, she did not name herself in that court order, but she is court personnel. They can hold a hearing. She's got to take testimony, and then she can find him in contempt of a specific order. She can fine him, or even worse. I keep reading that he's not going to be locked up, or she won't lock him up because of these challenges as far as administrative challenges, but that's not necessarily the case. A federal judge can put him in a holding cell until he cools off for a couple hours, but it will be incremental, probably a fine now after a hearing.
Yeah, so we've seen, we've already seen all the things you played out procedurally, even though it's in a very different legal context, which is a New York civil trial. Yes. You still have a judge there trying to rein him in, and still, in that case, a civil defendant who won't be reined in, right? So Engoron issued a protective order after Trump, displayed a picture of one of his court personnel, his clerk, said, don't do that. Then violated it again because it was still up, fined him for that, then came outside and basically appeared to make reference to her. And that judge called him on the stand and took the testimony right there. You're saying that Judge Chutkan could do the exact same thing in a federal court.
Exactly, and with one slight difference, and for your listening audience, right? Because it's a federal criminal case, she could find him in civil contempt for violating their order, or she could find him in criminal contempt, which is what she would, if she makes that finding, she would refer that as a separate case to the U.S. Attorney's Office in Washington, and they would have the determination as to whether they would prosecute him for criminal contempt of her court order. It could be a separate proceeding. She wouldn't sit on it. Another federal judge in the D.C. Circuit or the D.C. federal court system would sit on it. He could literally be creating another criminal trial for himself by violating her order if she does a finding that, in fact, he involved purposeful criminal intent to violate this order. There's enough there to make that finding right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, I'm curious to see if that finding comes out. There's some maybe plausible deniability insofar as there was, the order was sort of reinstated and the post happened very soon thereafter. He didn't know. But I think he's going to have to explain it to the judge in the sort of words of the trope. A. Scott Bolden, who's always a pleasure to talk to. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.